Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. There it is, the original art page, cover B of Sanity, done by Sean Chen, gifted to me at San Diego Comic-Con. Something I forgot to share with you guys when I did my San Diego Comic-Con video, but I figured, hey, we're here to talk about Terrificon. We're still in the con space. Why not show you guys that art page? Of course, cover B is now sold out in store. So very, very cool to see that. Appreciate everyone who picked up a copy. But let's get back into this video here today. We got to talk about Terrificon and my Comic-Con pickups at that show. A really, really fun show. And in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience going to Terrificon. A lot of hype going into that show. A lot of people talking about how it is the best comic show in the country. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you guys my opinion and tell you if it was actually worth that hype. But before we get into it, if you guys could drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel doing those things, I appreciate it. Also, a little bit of a shameless plug. Of course, Sanity in store now at swagglehouse.com. Sold out of cover B, sold out of cover D, sold out of cover E. Still have a few cover C's left in stock, but I suspect we're going to sell out of those as well. And of course, we have the cover A here. And then also, just a little bit more of housekeeping. Just have to show you guys because it's kind of exciting. The Pinky Panther, one of my cover E backers, actually sent in his books to be graded. So there you see it, officially in the books at CGC, Sanity #1, Swaggle 2023, Mickey Finnegan story, Santiago Espina, cover and art. Very cool to see that right there. Of course, you got the cover B, Sean Chen cover. Also very cool. Cover C, Pascal Campion cover right there. Cover D by Lucas Kettner. Very, very cool to see that. And then also cover E, last but not least, also done by Lucas Kettner. All these books hit 9/8. But, you know, in my opinion, CGC, what's up with the 9/9s? Where are the 10s at? You know? I had to look at every single one of these books myself. I had to manually inspect them before I sent them out to everybody. And I did my darndest to make sure that I sent over the best graded books. It was not easy. That was hard work. But that's neither here nor there. That's another video, something else to talk about. We got to talk about Terrificon. And the first thing I think I want to do is kind of show you guys some of my comic book pickups. Now, I didn't go too crazy, and in fact, I actually shared with you guys one of my other pickups, the first Black Widow there in my San Diego Comic-Con video. That was actually a book that I did get at Terrificon, but I figure, hey, let me go through some of the other books that I did pick up at the show. I'm also including a couple other books I picked up at another show. So all my hauls are really mishmashed at this point. So what is really the difference? I'm going to talk about the books regardless. Now, once again, I didn't go too crazy, but I picked up some cool things. And this book right here is probably the coolest book I picked up for myself outside of the Black Widow book. This one right here is, of course, Uncanny X-Men number 141, the Days of Future Past storyline. First appearance of Pyro and Avalanche, and I believe Rachel Summers as well. A very, very cool book, a classic book. Already had a copy, but I decided to pick up another one, found one priced at a really good deal towards the end of the show. I was actually able to kind of just pull this one out of the bins. Didn't really want to go home empty-handed. Saw this one being sold for $60. Figured, hey, why not? When in Rome, let me pick up that book. Also, while digging in the X-Men section, I picked up another X-Men key, X-Men 221, first appearance of Mr. Sinister. This one I got for $40, so it was $100 total for the two books. And this one looked pretty good to me. It was a pretty decent shape, and I figured, hey, why not pick up this one? Of course, a lot of conversation right now with the X-Men books. People excited about the X-Men animated series at some point in the future. People excited about Hugh Jackman showing up in the Deadpool movie. A lot of talk about those X-Men characters showing up. Again, to me, they're just great books regardless of the spec, but I happen to like them because I'm a fan of those villains. Speaking of X-Men books, another one I was able to grab for myself is another key in the Copper Age that is related to the X-Men universe. And this one right here is actually Longshot #1, first appearance of Longshot. Got this one for $10. Figured that was a really good price to pay for this one. Also a newsstand, although, you know, it's in the 1985 era, so newsstands, hit or miss. But this one is kind of an interesting book. I mean, still not one that I think is ever really going to get to the moon. for this character, but Longshot has long been speculated as a character that, could have a, Disney Plus series based around him or have some involvement at some point in the future. Seems like you could pull off a really good, Han Solo-ish type of character, a rogue character that would be pretty popular in the MCU. It feels like Longshot has the potential to be more popular within context to pop culture than he currently is. All right, next book I was able to grab for myself is one that's, I don't know if I've actually ever owned this book, but it gives me the member berries. Probably my favorite cartoon from the 80s, but this one right here, Voltron #1, first comic book appearance of Voltron. Found this one for $20. To me, felt like a really, really good deal, considering that this is in really high grade. It's actually a really, really nice copy. This one was just sitting on the wall at one of the vendors. Voltron, Thundercats, some of those other cartoons have always been ones that I've been a huge fan of, and I would love to see those portrayed on screen in some kind of successful way. All right, next two books I was actually able to get at another con. Shout out to Nando Knight. He hooked me up with these ones, but these are some cool Silver Age books that I got at great deals. This one right here is Submariner #5, first appearance of Tiger Shark. Got this one for $20. This is a book that really has had a huge pullback in this current 2023 market. I mean, I've said on the channel many times before about, these Silver Age keys that are the lesser tier ones, especially, when you get to like a spec book like this, 1968. I mean, how much value should a book like this really have? How many Tiger Shark fans are there really out there? But this one has been one that is really, really reset back to its previous prices that it was going for, say back in 2019 and 2020. But to me, this is still kind of a fun one. I mean, I've made mention on the channel here many times before. I love the Masters of Evil. I love these B-tier villains. This particular cover has kind of a classic, kind of almost like a golden age style with the damsel in distress and Submariner kind of coming in to save the day. Who knows what's going to happen with Submariner, in the MCU. I think he still has a lot of allegations going on with that actor. And based on the current MCU slate, it doesn't really feel like he slots into any particular project or movie, at least in the near future. All right, this next book right here is one that also, I don't actually know if I've ever actually owned this one, but this one right here is Tales of Suspense #58. Got this one for $30, I believe, but it is the classic Captain America versus Iron Man cover right there. Definitely a low grade, probably, in the 2.0 range or so. A lot of color breaks on the cover, but hey, everything is attached, everything is there. And this is just a classic book. Second appearance of Kraven actually in this book as well. So kind of an interesting key going into the Kraven movie, although the Kraven movie has now since been pushed like a lot of other projects out there because of the writer and SAG strike. All right, this next book right here is a really cool one that actually, shout out to Erod and Very Gary. But this right here is their last Ronin exclusive that they had at Terrificon. Now, of course, I had to support Erod and Gary. Erod supported me by picking up one of my books, so I picked up one of his books. So it was really cool to get their book right there. Of course, this art is done by Ryan Brown. You can see they have it numbered on the back, 381 of 900. But cool to pick up a book that was, specific to them at Terrificon. I believe, the Defects and Gary had another exclusive that they also did at the con, but had to, support them. Obviously, great YouTube content creators. Really cool to meet everybody out there. Of course, after I get through the books, I will talk about my experience at the show and everybody that I talked to. Speaking of Very Gary, I was at his booth digging around his bins, and I picked up two little books from him. This first one right here is actually Monstrous #1, the first issue of the Monstrous series. Got this one for $10. This is a really cool Image title right now. I know I don't spend too much time talking about modern comic books, but this one is really impressive. It's been going on for almost 50 issues now, written by Marjorie Liu. And this is one that, when we talk about modern spec as far as like what could be a show in the future, I feel like this one has a lot of legs. And for $10, based on, #1 issue prices, that was definitely a really good deal. This other one I also picked up from Gary is actually Spider-Woman #5, first Silver Age appearance of Morgan Le Fay. A lot of people speculating right now that Aubrey Plaza's character is going to be Morgan Le Fay in the Agatha Harkness show. So this has been a book that I've picked up many times. But one of the cool things about this book is that, as you can see right there in the corner, it is a Whitman variant It's got the diamond right there. So I thought that that was a pretty cool pickup. Obviously, people love their Whitman variants. I've never really been a big fan of them myself, but I understand that they are more rare, they are more collectible, and for that reason, people are always going to pick them up when they get the opportunity to. All right, in the last book I'm going to share with you guys, I picked up a bunch of other little things that I feel like is not necessarily worth talking about in the video, but this one right here is, and I think that this one is really cool. Picked up a Thanos Quest #1. Of course, this is the book written by Jim Starlin. One of my favorite reads as a kid when I was growing up. Probably the book that really, turned me into a comic book reader. I think like reading this book was the first time I was like, oh, like this feels different. Like this, there feels like there's some art and craft into this. This is when I really started to notice writing as an art form. But of course, this one written by Jim Starlin. And as you can see right there, I got Jim Starlin to do the signing, do the autograph on the top of the book. This one is just for me, just for the PC, just because I wanted to kind of savor the experience as I had a great time at Terrificon. So those were some of the books I picked up. Just wanted to share those with you guys. But let me talk a little bit about the con itself, the experience going to Terrificon, and just my overall thoughts of, where we're at right now with comic cons, especially when it comes to comic book buying. Now, it's really interesting because I had the experience going to San Diego Comic-Con the week before Terrificon. And when I went to San Diego Comic-Con, of course, I did my dealer interview. Thank you guys for watching that stuff. Obviously, a lot of information to take away from that video. But I did mention in that video and my haul video for San Diego Comic-Con that the sticker prices, the wall book prices, were still really, really high, especially at a show like that. I mean, you can sort of understand in San Diego Comic-Con, people are there, they're there to pay up. It's really more of a tourist thing, and so for that reason, I think a lot of dealers feel like they can have premium prices on a lot of their books. But as a comic book buyer, as a comic book collector, it makes it really hard to, make some of those purchases, especially when you think, I can look up on eBay right now, like some books that are priced more fairly than what I see here at this con. And then going into Terrificon, having had that experience, it was extremely refreshing to go to a comic book show that actually had pretty competitive pricing. I mean, by and large, the difference in the wall book prices was night and day between what I saw at Terrificon versus what I saw at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, that's not to say that every dealer at Terrificon was fairly priced or not marked up or whatever. There were still a lot of dealers that were definitely marked up. But for the most part, what I saw at Terrificon kind of felt like it was as advertised, where a lot of people had been saying that this is a comic book show truly for the comics, truly for comic book collectors. This is where you can get good deals. And I would say that it lived up to that hype for me. It definitely felt like, one, there were way more dealers at Terrificon than there were at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, I don't know if that comes as a surprise to people, if that's something that makes sense to them. Obviously, San Diego Comic-Con has become something more than just a comic book show. It's obviously, has many more vendors, many more events. It's a pop cultural con as opposed to just a Comic-Con at this point. So it makes more sense that more of vendors would be, not comic book vendors. Whereas at Terrificon, it felt like every other booth was a comic book vendor. In fact, this was actually my experience, which was really, really interesting, is I don't know about you guys, but when I go into comic book shows that are not one-day comic book shows here in the Southern California area, I am used to walking into the Comic-Con floor, and the first booth I see is like, I don't know, some toy booth or some sideshow booth or whatever, is selling statues, or maybe it's a video game booth or something like that. That is normal to me. And then I have to go like, oh, where's the vintage section? It is all the way in the back, with the other vendors that nobody is going to go visit. But this was actually different. When I walked into Terrificon, the literal first booth that greets you on the show floor is a Comic-Con vendor. I mean, can you believe it? It is an actual Comic-Con booth. This is the first booth at a Comic-Con. Mind blown. I would suspect if you go to New York Comic-Con, it's a similar experience to San Diego. We're talking about a sort of a different level of show here. It is an event show. San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. Maybe you lump in some C2E2s in there and that sort of thing. I'd say Terrificon is more of a medium-sized big comic show, and that's really why you have a lot more comic book vendors there. It's probably a lot more affordable for them, and it's really more about the comic books. It really did feel like that way. Now, the flip side of that is that at San Diego, every single booth you go to has like 15 AF-15s, 10 Fantastic Four ones. Every book there is 5 figures to 6 figures. You go to Heritage, you got like Detective 27s, and it's so common. It's like nobody even cares anymore. Like that is what you get when you go to San Diego Comic-Con. Terrificon, not nearly the same level. People's wall books, not every single booth has like 5 AF-15s on it. It's a totally different level of show in terms of inventory. But I think for that type of show, it's actually a good thing because you have more mom and pop vendors who can work with you, who can give you deals, and they're not worried about, making their margins for their table fees or whatever the case may be. So it was really a good show overall. Got to meet a ton of people in the community. I mean, I'm not going to remember everybody, Pressable Defects, Gary, Kamikaze, Newbie, Justin, Greg, Rocksteady, Wesley, Comic Journey, 3 Men in a Basement, No Good Comics, Lunch Money Comics, 360 Comics. I can't remember everybody, but it was like the entire comic book Instagram and YouTube, everybody was at Terrificon. So just for the experience of going, interacting with the community is definitely worth, that experience. But let me finish out the video talking just about my feeling of the current state of the Comic-Con versus the online buying. At Terrificon, yeah, you can get good deals, you can find good digs in the bins, but the wall is not necessarily, all the premium books that you would hope to find at your San Diego Comic-Con or New York or whatever the case is. That could just also be kind of where we're at with the current state of the market. I feel like a lot of dealers right now are pulling inventory or holding inventory that they don't want to unload just yet because they want to wait for the market to recover. I plan on doing a little bit of a follow-up video, a comic collector discussion type of video where I gave you guys some of my thoughts on the dealer interview video that I did, because while I thought that there was a lot of great information in there, there's definitely some stuff that, if you watch my index videos and things like that, that I wouldn't necessarily agree with some of the takes, and I'd like to kind of respond to those and give you guys some of my input, but I will save all that for another video. Anyways, that was me just sort of giving you guys my recap and review of Terrificon. Definitely a great show. Absolutely, you guys should go to it if you are in that area, kind of in that perfect mid-size comic book show. Tons of comic book vendors, more than I see at the normal Comic Cons that I go to out here. Pretty decent deals everywhere across the board. So I think that you would definitely have a good time going to that show if you are somebody who is out on the hunt. And probably the best part of all is the people in the community that you will see when you go to that show, because it really was a who's who of comic book social media peoples all around the show, which was a lot of fun. Anyways, that's all for this video. Those were my pickups for Terrificon, recap of the show. Thank you to everyone who said hi to me at the show or had a quick conversation or picked up Sanity at the show from me. I really, really appreciate all of your support, and it was really great to talk to everyone. Anyways, that's all for this video. Like, comment, subscribe. See y'all in the next one.